The airport terminal was glowing with warm morning sunlight when one unforgettable moment stopped hundreds of travelers in their tracks. A sharply dressed woman pointed toward a tired-looking single father holding his little daughter by the hand and demanded that he be removed from the private jet waiting outside. She believed he didn't belong there. She believed she had all the power. But everything changed the second the pilot calmly removed his cap, looked her in the eyes, and quietly revealed a truth that left the entire terminal speechless. "Ma'am, this is his jet." In that single moment, years of pride, heartbreak, sacrifice, and hidden success came crashing together in the most unexpected way imaginable. Before we begin this emotional story, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who still believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to the channel Hardworking Dad. Every like and subscription helps us bring more inspiring stories that remind the world compassion always matters. The first rays of daylight painted the airport in soft golden colors as travelers hurried toward their gates, dragging suitcases behind them while sipping coffee and checking boarding passes. Among them walked a man named Rowan Mercer, wearing a simple navy jacket that had seen better days. His clothes looked ordinary, his shoes carried the marks of countless long walks, and dark circles rested beneath his eyes after another sleepless night. In one hand he carried a worn backpack. In the other, he gently held the tiny fingers of his 7-year-old daughter, Maris, whose bright smile seemed capable of lighting even the busiest airport corridor. She skipped beside him with excitement because this was not simply another trip. It was the first vacation they had taken together in years, a promise Rowan had made after spending nearly a decade rebuilding a life that once seemed impossible to save. Most people who glanced at Rowan saw only an exhausted father struggling through another ordinary morning. None of them knew that every wrinkle on his face represented another battle he had quietly survived. Years earlier his life had looked completely different. He had once shared dreams with a woman named Celestine Hale, believing their marriage would last forever. Together they imagined building a peaceful home filled with laughter, family dinners, and endless possibilities. But dreams often collapse slowly before they shatter all at once. When Rowan lost his engineering job during an economic downturn, pressure invaded their marriage like a relentless storm. Bills piled higher every month. Pride turned into resentment. Love slowly disappeared beneath endless arguments about money and failure. Celestine eventually decided she no longer wanted to wait for brighter days. She filed for divorce, convinced Rowan would never become the successful man she believed she deserved. She left carrying confidence, expensive luggage, and certainty that she had escaped a sinking ship. What she never realized was that Rowan never stopped fighting. Becoming a single father transformed every hour of his life into a careful balancing act. During the day he accepted temporary construction work, repairing buildings beneath scorching sunlight. At night he studied aviation management and business strategy after putting little Maris to sleep. While other people rested, Rowan spent endless hours learning about private aviation, aircraft leasing, and luxury travel services. Every setback became another lesson. Every rejection became another reason to continue. His daughter never saw the tears he quietly wiped away after another failed business meeting. She only remembered the bedtime stories, homemade pancakes, and warm hugs that reminded her she would always be loved. Years passed before the smallest opportunity finally arrived. Rowan borrowed every dollar he could responsibly manage and purchased a neglected charter company that most investors believed was already finished. The business owned aging aircraft, outdated systems, and a damaged reputation. Everyone warned him he was making the biggest mistake of his life. Yet Rowan had spent years understanding problems others ignored. He modernized operations, treated employees like family, focused relentlessly on customer experience, and slowly earned trust one flight at a time. The company grew quietly. Then it expanded internationally. Eventually celebrities, executives, humanitarian organizations, and medical transport services all relied on his growing aviation network. Newspapers praised the remarkable turnaround, but Rowan rarely accepted interviews. Success had never been about proving anyone wrong. It had always been about giving Maris the stable future she deserved. Despite becoming wealthy beyond anything he once imagined, Rowan never changed the habits hardship had taught him. He still dressed simply. He still carried his own bags. He still thanked airport staff by name. Most importantly, he never allowed money to define his character because he remembered exactly how people had treated him when he had none. That beautiful morning they arrived early because Maris loved watching airplanes take off. She laughed each time another aircraft lifted gracefully into the bright blue sky. Rowan smiled as he watched her joy, silently grateful for every difficult road that had led them there. Waiting nearby stood one of his company's newest executive jets, prepared for a family trip that Rowan had repeatedly postponed while handling business responsibilities. This journey belonged entirely to his daughter. Fate, however, had prepared a very different surprise. As Rowan and Maris entered the exclusive departure lounge, Celestine walked through another entrance wearing designer sunglasses, elegant jewelry, and the unmistakable confidence of someone accustomed to admiration. She immediately recognized Rowan despite the years that had passed. For a brief moment uncertainty crossed her face before old habits quickly returned. She looked at his modest clothing, glanced toward the luxury passengers surrounding them, and reached the same conclusion she had made years earlier. She assumed he simply did not belong. Several nearby travelers noticed the growing tension as Celestine approached with measured steps. Her expression carried neither warmth nor curiosity. Instead it reflected the quiet superiority that had once made Rowan feel invisible during the darkest chapter of his life. She openly questioned why someone like him would even be entering the private departure area, insisting there must have been some misunderstanding. Airport staff exchanged uncertain looks while Rowan remained remarkably calm, placing a reassuring hand on Maris's shoulder. His daughter looked between the adults, sensing unfamiliar sadness without fully understanding its history. Celestine continued insisting that security verify Rowan's authorization. She believed she was protecting the exclusivity of the flight she expected to board. Other passengers began whispering, forming quick assumptions based entirely on appearances. Some pitied Rowan. Others silently judged him. A few simply watched with uncomfortable curiosity, waiting to discover how the embarrassing misunderstanding would end. Rowan never argued. Years earlier he might have defended himself desperately, hoping someone would believe his worth. Experience had changed him. He understood that dignity often speaks loudest through patience. He simply smiled gently at Maris and reminded her that kindness costs nothing, even when others forget its value. Moments later the chief pilot entered the lounge carrying a flight folder. He immediately recognized Rowan and warmly welcomed him with genuine respect that surprised everyone watching. Then, noticing the confusion surrounding the group, he politely asked whether there had been a problem. Celestine confidently explained that an unauthorized passenger had somehow entered the private boarding area and should be escorted away before delaying departure. The pilot listened carefully before delivering the sentence that transformed the entire atmosphere. He respectfully looked toward Celestine and calmly explained that there had indeed been a misunderstanding. Then, without raising his voice, he revealed that the aircraft waiting outside belonged to Rowan Mercer, founder and owner of the aviation company operating the jet. The scheduled flight had been arranged entirely for Rowan and his daughter. Silence spread across the lounge. Every whispered judgment disappeared. Every assumption collapsed. The same people who moments earlier questioned Rowan's presence suddenly understood they had witnessed something far greater than wealth. They had witnessed humility standing quietly beside arrogance. Celestine's confidence faded almost instantly. Her face reflected disbelief as she looked from the pilot to Rowan, searching desperately for evidence that this unbelievable revelation could somehow be false. Yet every employee greeting Rowan with sincere admiration confirmed the truth. The baggage handlers smiled at Maris by name. Flight attendants welcomed her favorite snacks aboard because they remembered her preferences from previous trips. Maintenance staff waved respectfully toward Rowan, thanking him for recently improving employee healthcare benefits throughout the company. Only then did Celestine begin realizing she had never truly known the man she once married. Success had not changed Rowan. Hardship had revealed him. Instead of responding with pride or revenge, Rowan simply wished Celestine well. There was no bitterness in his expression. Years of carrying resentment would have stolen precious energy from raising his daughter. He had already forgiven the past, not because it had been fair, but because forgiveness had allowed him to move forward while anger would have kept him trapped forever. Maris gently squeezed her father's hand before asking whether everyone could still have a nice day. Her innocent kindness touched everyone nearby more deeply than any dramatic speech could have. Several airport employees quietly wiped tears from their eyes. They had witnessed wealthy passengers before, but genuine grace under humiliation remained far rarer. As Rowan and Maris walked across the sunlit tarmac toward the waiting jet, the morning breeze carried away years of invisible pain. Every step represented another chapter completed. The frightened unemployed father who once questioned his own value no longer existed. In his place stood a man who measured success not through luxury aircraft or financial achievements but through the compassionate little girl proudly walking beside him. Inside the cabin, Maris ran toward her window seat, amazed by the sparkling wings reflecting bright daylight. Rowan paused before boarding completely, turning once to admire the airport around him. Countless strangers hurried toward destinations of their own, each carrying battles no one else could see. He silently hoped they would remember one simple truth after witnessing what had happened that morning. Appearances reveal almost nothing about someone's journey. The quietest person in the room may have survived storms impossible to imagine. Far behind them, Celestine remained standing alone in the departure lounge. She realized wealth had never been the greatest thing she had lost. She had walked away from loyalty, resilience, compassion, and a man who transformed suffering into strength instead of bitterness. No amount of luxury could erase that understanding. As the jet climbed gracefully into the brilliant blue sky, Maris rested her head against her father's shoulder and watched fluffy white clouds drift beneath them. Rowan closed his eyes for a brief moment, overwhelmed not by victory over his past but by gratitude for the future waiting ahead. Every sleepless night, every sacrifice, every disappointment had led to this peaceful morning with the person who mattered most. Life rarely rewards us immediately for doing the right thing. Sometimes kindness seems invisible. Sometimes perseverance feels pointless. But unseen seeds eventually become forests. The world may underestimate quiet people, overlook struggling parents, or dismiss those rebuilding after heartbreak. Yet character has a remarkable way of revealing itself exactly when the moment matters most. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with friends and family, and subscribe to Hardworking Dad so more people can discover inspiring stories about hope, forgiveness, and the incredible strength of ordinary parents. Special request: comment below with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe a person's character is worth far more than their appearance or their past. As the jet disappeared into the endless daylight sky, Rowan finally understood something that had taken years to learn. Real success is not making the people who doubted you feel small. Real success is becoming so strong, so kind, and so peaceful that their doubts no longer have the power to hurt you. And somewhere above the clouds, with his daughter smiling beside him, a once broken single father discovered that the greatest destination in life was never wealth or revenge. It was finally finding the freedom to leave yesterday behind and fly toward tomorrow with a grateful heart.